Yo, what's up? It's Battle Rap Radar Radio. You already know, Nano. Got my co-host with me, X, and we definitely got a special guest once again, B. Dot. What's going on, y'all?
What's up, man? What's up? How we doing?
Man, we all right. We got everybody on. What's up?
Yes, sir. I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, B. Dot. All right. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem.
So, for those of y'all that's listening right now, we're going to take a step back from battle rap. We definitely seen a lot going on in the past couple of days. Honestly, just the past year, even including 2016, it's been pretty hectic, I guess you could say, to say the least. So, let's get right into it. Charlottesville, Virginia, excuse me. We've seen the protests, whatever they're protesting at this point. I don't even know what they're protesting. I just want to know, I guess, B. Dot, I respect your opinion. We all respect your opinion, especially when it comes to politics and, things that's going on in the community. What are your thoughts what are your thoughts about for the past week that's been happening, especially in Charlottesville?
Man, I don't really know where to start besides just saying I'm not surprised. It's not surprising to me to see the actual physical display of systemic racism and things of that nature that we talk about from a quote unquote pro-black perspective. That's one of the main things we talk about. We talk about its existence, because a lot of people want to act like it doesn't exist. So when we talk about it from a systemic standpoint, we're talking about financial disparity, we're talking about mass incarceration, things of that nature that a lot of people either don't agree with or don't really understand when they look at the facts and the statistics behind it. But to see it manifest itself physically is, is for me, it's not surprising. So when I seen it, I don't know, I actually thought it was dope to see the quote-unquote counter-protest, to see, a group of white people standing up against white supremacy. I thought in that aspect that was dope to see. Although I feel like I said, once again, this is just a physical display of neo-Nazism and all this rhetoric, all this white nationalist shit. It really just stems from the system in itself. It's just a trickle down effect of the real system, behind the scenes. So I would like to see the nation, white people in general, all people, all races of people, I would like to see everybody come together and bang on the beast that's really behind the scenes, bang on the systems, help out the oppressed in a real way, not with the marching or the counter protesting, but doing it in a real way. So I say that to say, however, I was still impressed or, happy to see, counter protesting from other white Americans. So, but once again, wasn't surprised. Didn't really upset me. What can make me more upset than Sandra Bland? What can make me more upset than Trayvon Martin? So seeing that, I on my Facebook, you got casual. I like to call them casual revolutionaries. You got casual revolutionaries that want to speak up now and say, "Oh, this is bullshit. Look at these white nationalists." And I'm like, "Dog, have you checked the prison system? Like, have you studied mass incarceration? Have you studied financial disparity? Have you studied gentrification? Like, this is happening like on a different level. So to act like fake woke and be all upset about what's going on in Virginia, I got mixed emotions about it from just as far as black people trying to act like they all upset all of a sudden, and this stuff has been happening to our people, for centuries. So I don't know, man. I got mixed emotions, but once again, I was happy to see the counter protester.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you touched on with African Americans, it's kind of like a pick and choose battle. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to. We want to, kind of pick and choose. If okay, we see all of this going on, and we want to say something about this. But then something else goes on, and it kind of gets swept under the rug. But I kind of want to ask you about this. You're a West Coast guy, I don't know if you've been following the whole Colin Kaepernick thing. And if you have, man, I want to get your thoughts on it.
Of course, the interesting thing about the Kaepernick thing for me personally is that football, where I'm from and how I grew up and how my father raised me, football was life. Like I played football. I was the number 7 running back in the nation coming out when I graduated from high school back in 2003. I was highly recruited. I had scholarships from all the Pac-10 schools. I ended up going to Oregon State University, playing ball there for like 2 years before I just said, I want to come home and rap. So football is dear to me, you know what I mean? So, but at the same time, I get it. I get what happens in the sports culture, like what happens, especially in football, not so much basketball, but definitely in football. It has this slave owner, slave kind of vibe to it. You can even see it, just the culture of a practice. You got majority of the coaching staff and the majority of the owners in the National Football League are white. They walking around in suits. They walking around while, the big black man is running around catching balls and, doing physical things for entertainment. Although he's paid, what happens is the sports culture creates a mental slave. It's like we're paying you to shut the fuck up and run around and score touchdowns. We're not paying you to be a social activist. We're not paying you to try to uplift and liberate black people or oppressed people. That's not what we're doing here. So it's, for me, like I grew up and I've seen that happening to a lot of my friends. I've seen them kind of get subdued by the quote unquote sports culture in which you're supposed to just abide by all the rules, hush your mouth, and just go out there and play so you can hopefully one day make it to the NFL. So when I look at Kaepernick, I'm just proud that he basically sacrificed his career. He sacrificed his money, and he's putting his money where his mouth is as well. You know what I mean? He's actually he's showing improving. You know what I mean? He took a knee. He did it respectfully, and now that he's been blackballed, he's out here, busting moves and giving to charity and, really trying to help the condition of impoverished communities and people that are oppressed. So I'm very proud of Kaepernick, man, and I feel like if I was in the NFL, I'd probably be doing the same thing.
Definitely. Now, to kind of stick on the football subject a little bit, the Cleveland Browns head coach Hugh Jackson, he kind of came out with some
questionable
words.
Comments.
Yeah, he was saying that he kind of like his team shouldn't. He don't want his team to kind of protest the anthem, and I found that kind of weird because black head coaches is very few. It's very few in the history of the NFL. There's very few African American head coaches, and if you kind of just look at the numbers, they have to actually institute a policy for NFL, for NFL teams to actually interview minority races to become head coaches. Right. So I mean, what's your thoughts on that with an actual head coach, kind of coming out telling his team, whatever goes on the outside, what I'm saying, of our football team, we don't need to bring it, what I'm saying, on the inside. And don't use this platform to broadcast your opinion.
But see, that's the problem. Like his disconnect with how entertainment works and how influential these guys are, especially for black people. Like black people don't have, besides Barack Obama and people of that nature, which are very seldom, we don't have heroes and people to look up to outside of what we've only been allowed to do, which is entertain. You know what I'm saying? Like we've only been allowed, or since segregation ended and Jim Crow ended and all that shit, since we've basically been able to kind of get on our 2 feet since the 60s on up, we've been fighting to get up at the top of the upper echelon in terms of finances and running companies and running businesses. So until we get to that level, all we have, as Jay-Z said, all we have is sports and entertainment. So it's like, how are you so disconnected to the fact that your star football players are heroes for young black kids? And so to think that heroes for our community, whether they're rappers, singers, football players, basketball players, to think that they shouldn't have a voice and shouldn't speak, it kind of goes back into what I was just saying about sports culture in general. Like for black people, that's a head coach, that's a football player, that's whatever. Being about like, yo, Master's letting us do this, and he's paying us. We can't fuck this up. Like, that's the whole sports culture. That's the whole, thought process behind it. You know what I mean? So it's disappointing to see him. Not only him, you had Tim Brown come out and say some things about Marshawn Lynch. You had James Harrison say some things, and you also had Jermichael Finley, from the Packers. It's you can kind of see the culture of sports, and not only that, look at that ridiculous ass Hall of Fame speech that LaDainian Tomlinson gave, where he actually is proud to carry his slave name. Now, I don't have a problem with what he was trying to say, but what is the point of going out your way to make sure that you say, my ancestors were owned by a slave, but now I'm going to take that name and I'm going to be proud of that name. Why can't you just say my ancestors were owned by a slave, but guess what? We fought our way through. We were resilient, and here I am today to tell you I've been a great citizen to this country. I've played sports. Just give an example of how to come out of slavery and be successful, instead of kind of like giving ownership back to the slave owner by saying you're proud of having his name. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this is a part of the whole sports culture that I'm talking about. And everybody, I made a Facebook post about this about a week ago, and I said, look, I grew up playing football, Pop Warner to high school to Division I college, and 90% of the guys that I knew, for lack of a better term, I'm gonna just call them coons. Like, they was coons. They was just, I'm happy to be here. Let me just try to pass these classes so I can make it to the NFL. And at one hand, you look at it and you don't want to fault them because, they come from the bottom and they just trying to be successful. But at the same time, man, we're dealing with something on a large scale to where, like, you have a responsibility once you get to a certain level. Like the LeBron Jameses of the world and whoever else of the world, all these high-profile athletes. You have a responsibility to the black community to say something. You have to say something, even if you want to be like a little politically correct and you don't really want to go out on the limb. That's cool, but you got to say something, bro. And it can't be counterproductive. It can't be what Hugh Jackson said. It can't be what the rest of these athletes are saying. There has to be something, to uplift and something positive. You can make it politically correct. You can color it up, but you have to say something. And just being silent and just going with the flow or going against it, man, I feel like you're a traitor to your people. While your people out here suffering and dying and being oppressed, you're a traitor to your people, man. And you get to, sit back in your luxurious home, and which you've earned, no doubt. But how are you so disconnected from your people, from which you come from? That's the part that doesn't get me. Like, most athletes and most black people that make it, whether rapping or whatever, entertainment, they usually come from the bottom, and so they should be able to relate to those of us that are still here at the bottom, that are asking for some type of representation on a national scale, since we don't have a voice to do it, So I don't know, man. It's disappointing. It's very disappointing.
I mean, with everything that's been going on, I mean, it's just been nonstop, throughout the news. And I think the saddest thing is that anybody that is here listening, and anybody that's just probably on Twitter right now, you can't get away from all this.
You can't.
And a lot of the younger, the younger generation right now probably is looking at this wondering why is racism still almost a thing? I don't know if anybody's seen that photo, even though it wasn't related to the Charlottesville protests and whatnot, but the child in the KKK uniform with the 3 SWAT members.
Yeah,
I mean, we've gotten to a point where it's almost just it's so draining right now. Earlier, you kind of lead towards it where it's like, it's not the Sandra Bland situation, it's not Trayvon Martin, it's not Tamir Rice. It's almost gotten to the point where it's just like we kind of shrug our shoulders and be like, well, here we go again. Like, what is it going to take, for us to kind of say, all right, we're done with this. This is not something that I need to pop on my TV and the news is there. How do we stop all this from, like, happening? I don't know. A lot of people have different answers. I want your perspective on how do we come together and either, A, fight back on this or try to find a systemic way to go ahead and fix this, even though the system's not necessarily made for us as minorities in general to really, I guess, achieve our goals altogether. Like, what's your thoughts on being able to fix the problems that's been happening nonstop that we continuously see on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it's 2 ways to do that. So first and foremost, the first way, which a lot of people would consider divisive, but I don't, given the circumstances, is that minorities, we congregate amongst ourselves and practice group economics and start doing what a lot of the other what we consider minorities that first came over here did, what the Chinese did, what the Jewish did. They built their own communities to where they're policing their own neighborhoods or making sure their people are getting, in the police department to police their neighborhoods. They're running the businesses in their neighborhoods. They're running the banks in the neighborhoods. They're creating a community where they don't have to rely upon the government or any outside influence. So I believe that that's one way to do it, and that's one of the ways that I've been preaching to do it. Unless the second way, which would be a beautiful way to do it, but seems unrealistic because it seems like some white people are unrelenting to give up their privilege. And what I mean by that is the easiest way to really get rid of all this bullshit is if the quote-unquote good white people stand up and say, we're tired of the bullshit. We're tired. We get it. We know we have white privilege. We know the system was set up for us to prevail and keep our black brothers and sisters down, our minority brothers and sisters down. We want to come together and unite and get rid of all this bullshit. But they have to be really, really, really willing to do it because the same thing that's happening to us will happen to them. They will be silenced. They will lose jobs. They will lose opportunities. Something may happen. They have to be courageous. They have to be, brave. And we have to really fight this together if we really doing this as a quote unquote human species. Now, me personally, I haven't seen any indication that a vast majority of white Americans are willing to do that. Like I said, I've seen a small little pocket of counter protesting down in Virginia against the neo-Nazis, but I need to see this on a global scale. Where was a white rally and a big outcry when these things happened to Sandra Bland and Tamir Rice and et cetera, et cetera? Like, where was that? So when we get to that point, we don't even need tragedies to happen. A tragedy has already happened when you look at mass incarceration. Where is white America, the good white America, when we look at mass incarceration, when we see that black people make up 13 or 14% of the nation, but make up over 50% of the incarceration population? Like, it doesn't make any sense unless someone is just going to tell you that black people are more prone to committing crime, which is a racist fucking statement. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense to say, well, black people are in jail the most because they're more prone to violence and crime and yada, yada, yada. Then you just flat out racist. Instead of that, you should be saying, why are there so many black people in jail as opposed to white people? When white people dominate them, it makes no sense. So when we get good white people to stand up for all of these things that I'm stating, then perhaps we can move in unison towards some type of dethroning, if you will, of the government and the system and systemic racism, white supremacy that had its inception with, the forefathers and which continues to go on today. We just need everybody to step up in unison. And if you're not going to do that, then Mexicans, blacks, all the other minorities need to just do what they do within their own communities and try to survive the best way we can because, frankly, we're outnumbered. And, frankly, we're out I don't even know what we're out-financed. We're you know what I mean? Like, we're in no position to fight, especially not from a military perspective, and we're definitely not in any position to fight from a financial perspective. So I don't know, man. Like, those are the two options I would think: group economics within your own communities, or, like I said, if everybody's going to really come together and really do this, and white America is really going to step up for its other citizens, that would be great. I've yet to see any indication that can possibly happen, though.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Now, I just wanted to say this, man. I live in a state. I live in Texas, so I lived here my whole life. I've experienced multiple, situations of racism. I actually got into it with a white guy like not too long ago. It was like a couple of days ago about the incident in Charlottesville, and he, we was arguing about. He was comparing like Black Lives Matter to the KKK. And I was, it was a very heated argument because he felt like, Black Lives Matter was a hate group, Right. And I didn't understand the premise of this argument because, Black Lives. Yeah, right.
Not to cut you off, bro.
No, go ahead.
I really hate that statement because what people fail to realize is that when you talk about neo-Nazism or you talk about white nationalists, they're actually organized. You know, they're actually an organized group of people where everybody knows who everybody is. When you deal with Black Lives Matter, it's almost like a colloquial term that we use to fight oppression, but it's a small organization. It's a small organization, and then you have random black people that are just upset, and then they're a part of the marches and they're a part of the protests, but they're not actually part of the organization. So when you have situations like we had back in Baltimore, when quote unquote Black Lives Matter was out there burning shit or breaking shit and doing all that, well, in actuality, that wasn't any of the individuals per se in the organization, because it's a small organization. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
In Dallas with the guy
exactly. That's that same situation. Yeah, it's just brothers and sisters that's fed up, and we all say yes, I'm going to say Black Lives Matter. However, me being myself, I'm not in the organization. But I do believe Black Lives Matter, but I'm not part of the organization. But if Black Lives Matter as an organization came out here to L.A. and marched down the street one day, I'll get out there, you know what I mean? But I'm not necessarily part of the organization, so that's the difference. So when they say Black Lives Matter is a hate group, you have situations where people are fed up and they go do wild shit. And I'm not saying that that's the necessary a way to go.
The answer.
However, it's not the answer. However, but those are frustrated young black brothers and sisters that's out there just trying to get out their frustration some kind of way, but they're not necessarily part of your organization. That's the huge difference. When you deal with neo-Nazis, and they're actually strategic and organized, and they plan shit. They actually all went to Home Depot and bought tikis. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's the shit. That's the shit they do. So I don't really see the comparison, and I think the comparison is just one of those. It's another one of those things where where white
misdirect everything.
It's a misdirection, like black on black crime and all that shit.
That's what I was trying to explain to him. I was saying Black Lives Matter. It was started peacefully. You know what I'm saying? It was started peacefully to defend Trayvon Martin. So but what I was trying to get at was when you say Black Lives Matter, if you say that to a person of another race, it seems like instantly their response is, well, white lives don't matter, or, blue lives don't matter.
Yeah,
and I was trying to explain to him, it's not that black people is saying black lives don't matter. I mean, white lives don't matter or blue lives don't matter. It's like, to use the analogy, if you was in the jungle and you was seeing like an epidemic of, tigers dying, you're going to say tigers' lives matter. But you're not saying lions' lives don't matter or monkeys' lives don't matter. It's just at this certain point of time, you're saying black lives matter more, not necessarily more than another race, but, you know what I'm saying, like more. It's not even right now. You don't even have to use the word more. It's just the fact that you have to say that. Like, you don't even have to say Black Lives Matter more. It's just, I have to tell you that Black Lives Matter because it seems like society doesn't care about black people. It seems like this country doesn't care about black people, so I have to say Black Lives Matter. The same thing when you compare white power being shouted by a white nationalist Nazi group, and you see black power being shouted by a Pan-African like myself. When I say black power, I'm saying black power because I'm oppressed as a black man. My people are oppressed. I want my people to be liberated and proud to be who they are, proud to be of African descent, and yada, yada, yada. When a white nationalist says white power, he's saying, I want to control the world. I want everybody else beneath me. I'm from the superior race, yada, yada, yada. It's two different things. You know what I mean? So it's one of them struggles, and honestly, you be wasting your energy trying to explain that to someone that doesn't get that right off the bat. That should be understood right off the bat when somebody says Black Lives Matter, given the circumstances, given the situation, given that we've come from slavery to Jim Crow to segregate to all these things. To say Black Lives Matter should be pretty cut and dry, like, to understand. You know what I'm saying? So anybody that's having a difficult time understanding that, I would just simply say that they're racist and they're insecure about losing their privilege.